All right, good deal. We are all facing the right way and everything this week. That's wonderful. Hello and welcome back to another Mental Health Monday here on Even Tacos Fall Apart. I am really excited for tonight's guest. I see that y'all are having a competition in chat to see who's here first and who won today. Oh, 48 definitely won. Sorry, Bite Mark. Next time. But you're second, so you still get some points. But thank you guys so much for being here ahead of time and being ready for this great conversation. I am excited to have. If you are here joining us either on Twitch or YouTube, feel free to pop any questions in to chat into the chat that you want to have answered, and we will get them answered today. Our topic is busyness and mental health and self-improvement. So we're going to cover a lot of things tonight that I think are very important to talk about and important to talk through also. And I am joined by Peggy Sullivan. Peggy, thank you so much for taking the time out to join us today.
I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah. So I'll tell y'all a little bit about Peggy, and then we're gonna dive right in. So, like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them while we are here live, and we will make sure to get them addressed. But Peggy is a keynote speaker, author, consultant, and trusted researcher. Through her work, she has discovered why busyness is detrimental to our health, happiness, and success. With her help, people and organizations are unlocking peak performance, improving self-care, and finding true happiness. Peggy is presented for both small teams and Fortune 500 companies like Google, Bank of America, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and Ingram Micro. In her forthcoming book, Beyond Busyness, How to Achieve More by Doing Less, Peggy outlines her signature 3-step busy busting methodology that is actionable, effective, and has already helped thousands of people. And if y'all are looking to connect with Peggy anywhere, I do have some links for you. I've got website, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. So feel free to click through on any of these. Go give her a follow, leave her post some likes, add some comments. All of those things are really helpful in the online space as far as engagement goes and visibility and everything. So we do already have a question queued up, which is great. So Bite Mark would like to know, what is your favorite poem?
My favorite poem, I have to say, I'm not big on things that rhyme, but I am really big on mantras. And my favorite mantra in the whole world is I am enough, I have enough, and I got this.
I love that. Do you know who said that, or who popularized that or anything?
Me.
You. Hey, you know what?
Me.
That's great. I think that's a really good mantra. It's sometimes hard to believe, and if you repeat it to yourself enough, maybe that could help you start to believe it. But that's a great
Yeah,
mantra.
I think it's something that really speaks to me. It just reminds me that we have everything we need and that we can do hard things. And I love doing hard things. So it just, for me, gives me the confidence to know that I can do anything I want to do. Just put my mind to it.
Yeah, yeah. And that's great. And that's what you need, is that confidence, right? So you're a busy gal. What do you enjoy doing when you're not busy with your writing and consulting and speaking? What are some of your passions? What gets you going?
I love hot yoga, and as of lately, I am really into cold plunging. I figure if I could sit in a tub 42 degrees for 10 minutes, I can do anything. And I feel so energized and so alive when I cold plunge. So it's my latest thing that I am loving.
Did you start like super small with the plunges, like
Oh,
30
yeah.
seconds or
Oh,
something?
yeah. Yeah, I mean, 30 seconds felt like a lot. But what I really learned was that it was mind over matter, and that if
Mm.
I could force myself, and what I would do is I would sing for the first 60 seconds, like just sing something. So I'd be distracted, and then all of a sudden I'd realize it's not so bad, it's not so cold. but the effects that you have from it when you're done and how you feel the rest of your day is just so powerful that it's just worth the discomfort. And I think it always reminds me that I can do hard things. Whenever I want to get out and run away and quit, I just stick with it and I say, if I can do this, I can do anything.
Yeah, I definitely think that would be a huge challenge for me in particular. I'm not a cold enjoyer, nor do I care to try. But yeah, I mean, the hot yoga sounds more like something I would try, and I don't want to try hot yoga either necessarily. Regular yoga is great. I think that that's wonderful. And my 17-year-old goes to there's a gym close by that does like it's hot yoga, and there's a cycling class that they do, but all of their things are hot. Everything's hot. All the temperatures are warm in there.
Yeah, I think it's great. It just is really relaxing and there's nothing like a good sweat, right? I
Yeah.
mean, you just purge your system.
Yeah. Oh, by Mark says, do you do hot yoga and then go straight into the cold plunge? That's a good question.
I don't. I don't think I could. My hot yoga studio is about 98 degrees and I don't think I could stomach going right in the cold plunge. I cool off for a little bit. I take a shower in between. It's all done in the same studio, and it's usually 5 minutes in between. But I need that sort of mental preparation in the shower and just kind of adjusting my temperature.
Yeah, yeah. I can imagine there's got to be some sort of temperature differential that you don't want to go from a certain temperature down to a certain temperature in that kind of span. Yeah.
For
Oh, this is
sure.
fun. They did a study with people putting their hand and forearm in a thing of ice water, and when they were saying curse words, they were able to keep their hand in for longer. Yeah, I would for sure be cussing if I did a cold plunge. 100%. That would my singing would just be a string of curse words. Most definitely.
Too funny.
I like that there's a study for that also. Like, who thought, hey, let's do a study where we put people's hands in ice water and either allow them to curse or not allow them to curse. What a fun study design to come up with, you know? Do you have a true crime story that fascinates you?
I don't have a true crime story, but I like to think about busyness as a thief. And in my head, I think about busyness as a thief that steals everything important to us. It steals our health, it steals our happiness, our relationships, our friendships, our focus, our concentration. So I always imagine busyness being a thief and running around and stealing everything important to me. So while it may not be a true crime story, I do have this visual thing that I go to when I think about busyness and I kind of call it time poverty. Over the years, I've learned that people love to be busy, but people don't love to be short on time.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I don't like to think of it as busyness, but more as time poverty, not having enough time for what's important.
I love the concept of time poverty because it's definitely one of those things that's like I don't love to be busy. I also don't love to feel short on time to the point where I think my not wanting to feel short on time is more critical than my not wanting to feel busy because I will plan things out and be like, okay, we need to get there a little early, so we have to leave by this time. And it's very much like that is filling up that calendar with like leave here, get ready here, do this here and everything. So that's a neat concept when it comes to true crime, especially. Why do you think some people, or I guess so many people, really struggle to prioritize self care? Is that a result of societal factors, or is it something else? Just kind of a mindset of the individual? Why is that?
think it's actually a combination of two things. Number one, our hustle society, it tells us that busyness is good. It's a status
Mm,
symbol. It's a sign of importance. You ask somebody how they're doing and they won't say, I'm doing great. They'll say, I'm so busy. Aren't I wonderful? And so we tend to associate busyness with success, although busyness rarely equals success.
mm,
But I think the other thing that is pretty obvious is that when we're busy and we get something done, it is really psychosomatic. Something happens in your nervous system. You get a hit of adrenaline. You feel really great. Oh boy, I crossed something off the to-do list. Isn't this great? And it makes you feel great. But the funny thing is, you will feel that way if you did something as simple as literally just cross something off the to-do list. It was a low value, or you did something big. So, busyness is addictive, and we all love that feeling of getting stuff done. And that's why so many times, we'll stay at the office and work late instead of having family dinners or whatever, because we have this compulsion to get it done.
mm.
It's like an itch that you need to scratch.
Do you think you could add something like self-care to a to-do list and have that be effective, or is that it just does it just become another thing in our day at that point?
Oh, not at all. I think you have to schedule in self-care. Self-care is a huge priority for me. Getting 8 hours of sleep, eating 3 meals a day, exercising, and if I don't schedule it in, it's it doesn't happen by accident. It has to be intentional. So I am a big believer in time blocking,
Mm,
and I can tell you exactly. I exercise 6 days a week. I will tell you exactly when I'm going to exercise this week because it's just part of my schedule. People move around it, and I know when I'm going to do it, and I always have time for it because I plan around it.
yeah, yeah. Now, you've also researched the effects of busyness pretty extensively in what you do. Can you share what some of the most surprising findings around how staying busy really affects our health and happiness?
Yeah, I there's a lot of stats. I think the first stat that I find really interesting is 75% of the population today in America is over the top busy, but doesn't want to be and doesn't know how to not be busy. The second stat that I think is really fascinating is it's really around self-sabotage because 65% of the population overschedules ourselves so we don't have time to actually get our work done. So our schedules are so stuffed, we don't have time for what's important. And to me, that's an act of self-sabotage because we keep our own calendars and we don't realize it. I think the other stat that just always knocks me to my knees is that 64% of people don't have time for self-care because of their busyness. And this is basic self-care, like eating 2, 3 meals a day, getting a good night's sleep, taking a break, standing up, just simple, basic things. So busyness is really detrimental to our health and to our well-being. And of people that are over the top busy, about 76% of them are not happy. They're on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of happiness. They rank a 5.6. So mediocre with happiness. I don't know. Busyness doesn't mean you're happy either.
75% of people who say that they're over the top busy are not happy. Is that right? Is that what you said?
That is right, and would like to be less busy. They just don't know how.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like if you are kind of to a point where you're so busy, it probably does become a little bit difficult to be happy because you literally don't have time to be happy. you know?
Yeah, and I know a lot of times you're drowning in the unimportant, right? Like when you're busy doing something significant or something intentional, or you're building something or working towards something, that's fun, that's exciting. but too many times we're drowning in the unimportant, the errands, the doing things that really we don't want to be doing. We just say yes because we're people pleasers, or we say yes because it's easier to do it ourselves instead of having somebody else help or even ask for help. And so a lot of it is really self-inflicted.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I was talking just recently about grocery shopping and how I don't really grocery shop. I've just broken down and I do delivery all the time. Part of that is because it's like, okay, well, if I go grocery shopping, one or both of the kids are going to want to go with me. I'm going to walk out with more things. I'm going to spend more time. I'm going to spend more money. It's just easier to say, okay, let's do a grocery order, have it delivered here. I don't have to go and spend the time to do it there. I do still have to put together the list, but it's something that I would be doing already. So it's really one of those, there are complicating factors that would make it more costly to go to the grocery store for me in particular. But the main thing is just the time saving that it brings is like, okay, this is one chore, one thing I don't have to go do. I don't have to take the time out of my day to go do it. I can do something else with it. Most of the time, this lately, it's been like, well, that's the time that I would otherwise be taking my 11-year-old to jujitsu or to horses or something like that, or that would mean that I don't cook dinner that night or whatever it is. So yeah, I absolutely support outsourcing things where you can, where you're able, and just simplifying a little bit if you need to. I don't think that there's anything inherently wrong with doing that when you're able to.
Yeah, and most people are afraid to ask for help or don't like having other people do things. It's interesting when I got married for the second time, my husband hated me folding his laundry, but if his stuff was in the dryer, I'd fold it because I wanted to use and he would be like, "No, don't fold it. I want to do it myself." And then all of a sudden he realized, you know what? Why? Why? He doesn't like folding laundry. It gets done and it just makes life easier for everybody. So I think there are a lot of things that we do that we like doing ourselves because we're used to doing ourselves. I
Mm,
mean, nobody folds a t-shirt like my husband, but the reality is, I'm going to fold a t-shirt almost as good as he is, and it's going to be done.
yeah, yeah. Now you brought up hustle culture and just kind of that often like leads us to think, okay, I'm busy. That means that I should be happy, or that means that, this is something that's good to show that I am so busy. How did you personally break free from that? And what was the hardest part for you?
I I had a series of wake up calls and I paid a price over and over and over again. But each time I had a price to pay, I would kind of wise up and get serious and do something differently for a short period of time and then I'd get back into the same old rut. And for me, I had a series of things that really happened. The first thing that happened, which is kind of a funny story, and it's about a cat, is that I was a single mom and I was working long hours, and on the nights I didn't have my son, I would work late and I would come home and I would be ravenous, and then I'd scour the cupboards for anything I could find to eat. And one night I found a stale bag of pistachio nuts. Okay, great, this qualifies as dinner. I chomp them down and I wake up on the couch to this like gagging noise, and I look up and it's my cat throwing up pistachio nuts, and I
Oh
realized that
no.
I fed him cat food, and that I fed him pistachio nuts and that I ate the cat food. And I
Oh my
didn't even
gosh.
realize it. And I can remember thinking to myself, literally catching myself saying, something's wrong with these nuts. They're salty, they're stale. I better get to the store and get some new ones. But I was in such a burnt out haze on autopilot. I just kept on eating. And then that made me think, well, what are the other things that I'm mindlessly doing? And, it could be simple things like I'm losing my keys all the time. I was
Mm.
losing my keys, all the time. I was locking myself out of the house. I was just forgetting where I parked. And then really started to think about the price tag of busyness and what it was costing me and what it was costing my relationships. I had just come out of a failed marriage, and I never thought my failed marriage was because I was too busy, but actually my failed marriage was because I was too busy and I didn't spend enough time with my husband, and I prioritized other things above relationships. So I think that there is a pretty significant price tag we pay that we don't have to pay. And so we have this little come to Jesus moment with ourselves where, we say, for me, it was like, okay, I'm addicted to busyness. I've got a problem. I've got to stop. What can I do? And for me, that's what started me on this research binge to really understand busyness, to understand the facts and the data. Am I alone? Are other people doing it? What are they doing to be less busy? And it started this 10-year crusade to really understand busyness, the price tag, but more importantly, a recovery program. And I just kept on testing different ways to stop my busyness until I found a series of tactics or solutions that worked really well for me. And then people started noticing, oh my God, Peggy, you're so much happier. You're so much more productive. You look so much healthier. What is going on? And then I started spreading, my busy busting solution. Before I knew it, I was writing and speaking about it and sharing it with organizations. And that's really where it all began, was me saying, oh my God, I'm over the top busy. I've got to make a change. Let me try and understand what's causing this, and let me try to abbreviate it. And that's how I ended up with my 3-step busy busting process.
Yeah. So what was the hardest part for you breaking out of that? Was it just having to kind of have that repetitive, this is not what I need in my life anymore? Was there something particularly difficult whenever you were like, this is my breaking point? What do I do now?
I think there's a lot of self-awareness that goes on. Like right now, I'm so used to catching myself before I hit a breaking point, and I'll catch myself and I'll say, "Okay, Peggy, are you working on a high value activity? Are you working on a low value activity? How important is what you're doing? Is it really worth it?" And so what I found is that I'm really evaluating and being so much more intentional with how I spend my time, and really making sure that I'm spending it on things that I get value from, that give me joy, that give me pleasure, and that are important things. And so I think that's kind of the difference. I think too many people, look at, oh, gee, if I work hard, I'll be successful, I'll do well, and I'll be popular, and everybody out there is busy, so I should be busy too. But we don't often think about the price tags that come with it. And when you start to think about how it hurts your relationships, you don't have time for the people you love, you don't have time for your colleagues. I mean, how many times have you been in a business situation where you want to ask your boss something or you want to get help, and they just don't have time for you? And that's the worst thing that a leader can say to anybody on his team is, I don't have time. But so many times they're just trying to keep their head above water, and or they're trying to do the things they think will make their team successful, and just trying to figure it out. It's hard. Life is hard,
Yeah.
and that's why it's so important that we're constantly trying different things and pivoting to make better lives for ourselves. And for me, that's what it was all about. It was like, what can I do to pivot into a life that is just better for me, and better for my son and my family and my work and the people around me, even better for my fur baby. My fur baby knows when I'm busy. He knows when I'm stressed. He
Hmm.
knows when I don't have time to pet him, and so, we need to make more conscious decisions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are there long-term mental health impacts of living a life of busyness?
Yes, I think some of the long-term impacts is just poor mental health. You're not able to take care of yourself, and your mind is so cluttered, you start to forget things. And we tend to forget small things, but those small things turn into big things. I interviewed a lot of people for the book that I wrote, and a couple of stories that really resonated with me. One was with a woman who is a newscaster at Fox News. And she was talking about how busy she was, and it was time to take her son to a birthday party that he really wanted to go to. And so she rushed around to make it happen, got in the car, went to drive him, went to get the gift, went to give the gift. She wanted to give the gift and bring it out before she brought her son, and she ended up locking herself out of her car with her son in it, with the
Oh
car running.
no.
And that is certainly not something she meant to be doing, but she was so flustered and running around so much, she just didn't think about it. And, the reality is we do really, really stupid things when we're busy. We just get really forgetful, and goes from forgetting where you parked your car in the grocery store to, more important things that have consequences.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, it's definitely one thing to be a little bit absent-minded because you're pretty busy. But there are some critical things that you can really kind of overlook if you're not on top of them really, really well. And I could absolutely see being busy and having all these things on your mind, especially parents, and especially mothers carry so much in their mind at all times where it's just like, this is my list. This is everything that I've got going on. Even if it's a light day, even if it's a just nothing's really happening day, there's so much in your brain already, that adding a busy
Yeah.
schedule on top of that is impossible.
Well, we don't always think about the impact busyness has on everybody around us. We kind of think it as something that we do to ourselves. But for example, I have a best friend who I go with girls' night out on, and I love going girls' night out because it's like therapy over a glass of wine, and I just get a different perspective, and it really adds value to my week. And lately, my girlfriend hasn't had time for girls' night out.
Mm.
She started a new job, and it's going on about 8 weeks that she hasn't been able to make girls' night out. And I miss her. I miss her opinions. I miss her company. And, I said to her, I said, Paula, I'm thrilled you've got a new job, and I'm thrilled you're diligent at it, but I really miss you. And she was like, well, I didn't realize, what the impact my new job had on the
Yeah.
people around me. And she started thinking about it, and then she made some changes.
That's good. I mean, it's good to have that recognition because very easily, somebody could be offended by that, right? They could be like, "Well, I'm busy. I don't have time to come and do this with you because I'm busy and can't you see that I'm busy?" Like I could very easily see her getting offended by that. So kudos to her for being like, step back and really evaluate that and be like, "Oh, I didn't recognize, I didn't realize," and being able to kind of even just acknowledging, even if she can't change anything, just the being willing to acknowledge it is really great.
Yeah, and the other thing is busy people are always late, right? And when you're late all the time, it really says something to the people around you. Like your time is important. My time is more important than yours. And so, this ripple effect that busyness has is pretty serious. People wait to start a meeting until everybody gets there, and then they end up starting at 10 minutes late, and then they end up finishing 10, and there's just this ripple effect that busyness has. And that's why I think it's really important that we understand the impact busyness has, not just on us and our physical and mental health, but our relationships, our
Mm.
teams, the people around us.
Yeah, absolutely. You've mentioned your busy busting methodology a little bit already, and I know it's in your book as well. Can you walk us through the basics of that and what talk about maybe why it's so effective for people who are trying to kind of regain that control?
I absolutely sure can. It was something that I stumbled upon trial and error, but it works every time. So I'm always thrilled when I can share it with somebody. So it's a three-step busy busting process. And step one is what I call subtraction. And it's about eliminating low value activities and really understanding the things that you spend your time on that really don't add value. So, for example, I'm speaking with a group of realtors in the next couple of weeks, and one of their busy traps is social media, and they need social media to market, but too many of them find themselves doom scrolling, or too many times we get stuck in what I call the email rabbit hole, where you're just going to look at one email and it leads to two and it leads to three. And before you know it, an hour's gone by and you haven't been working on what's important. Another busy trap is multitasking. You think, oh boy, I'm going to get five things done at once. But the reality is, when we multitask, we're actually 40% less productive. And the number of mistakes we make is threefold. So, step one in the busy busting process is really about recognizing those low value activities, those busy traps. I invented something that I call the busy barometer. I worked with a bunch of industrial psychologists and some HR people to understand what are the most common busy traps that people fall into. And actually, there's 24 of them. And anybody that's interested in taking my busy barometer, reach out to me. I'd be happy to send you a link. It's free, but it's very interesting to understand what your low value activities are because they're habitual. Sometimes we don't even realize it. So that's step one. Step two is what I call mojo making. And it's about incorporating intentional happiness rituals because busyness is so addictive that when we stop being busy, we lose that endorphin rush that we get. And so we don't like giving up crossing things off our to-do list. And so what I found that if we do things like intentional happiness rituals, and it could be something as simple as every day I eat 3 pieces of dark chocolate at 11 o'clock. I just close my eyes, pop them into my mouth, and take a 5-minute break. And it resets me, it refocuses me. Maybe it's the cacao, maybe it's closing my eyes, maybe it's the good that I do. I don't know what it is. But when you do these little things throughout your day, they actually stimulate the brain and you are able to focus more, you're more positive, you have more energy, and when you are happy, you also fight off chronic disease and some other pretty cool things. So happiness rituals is step number two, and doing intentional things throughout the day so that too many of us, too many times we think happiness is this thing or destination. I'm going to be happy when I get the job, when I get to the weekend. But really, it's the little things in life. And when we create these little micro moments of happiness, it's amazing how much happier, healthier, and more productive we are. So that's step two, is what I call mojo making. And then the third step is just crystal clear on what's important to you. And I call it values vibing. And that's using your values as a filter for every action and every decision. And so it forces you to really understand what your values are. What is most important to you? Connection, relationship building, self-care, healthcare, growth, those are all things that are pretty important values. And when you start to prioritize them and you start to look at your day and say, well, did I do the things that I value? Did I manage my energy? Did I do something where I learned something new? Was I authentic? When you understand what your values are, and that's a filter for your decisions and actions, it gets a lot easier to know, what do you say yes to? What do you say no to? You all of a sudden aren't saying yes to everything, but you're saying yes to the things that really align with what's important, your values.
Is it important to sit down and really kind of articulate those values, and is it difficult to put into practice, like, okay, I'm gonna make this decision based on these values? Is that something that's usually difficult for people to do?
It used to be, but I decided when I thought values alignment was so important that I would research 12,000 people and understand what are the core values that lead to leading a healthy, happy, well-lived life. And I learned that there are four, and while people personalize them a little bit differently, they're pretty much the same core values. So I always tell people, think about your core values in these terms, and these are the four core values that really make a well-lived life. One of them is human connection and how important human connection is. Another one is energy management, making sure that you're really doing the proper physical, mental, and spiritual health. Growth is important. My dad always used to say, Toots, a day without learning something is a lost opportunity. And, when we do hard things and when we learn new things, we realize that we have the capacity to do so much. And that's why growth is such an important value. And the fourth value is authenticity, and just making sure you know and you understand yourself. But I also love to tell people, in today's world, authenticity is just not about you and your needs. But in today's world, it's really great when we start to think about the people around us and what they need and what's important to them. And we start to think about things in terms of we instead of me, and how much better the world is when we work together towards things. So authenticity is the fourth value that really lights us up.
Yeah, I mean, that's really good. And then putting those into place, like if you're trying to make a decision of, do I take this on, is it difficult to say, like, filter it through those values and
No,
that kind of
I
thing?
mean, actually, for me, what I do is at the end of every day, I have this little values report card that I developed. It's in my book, but I just rank the four values, and the value that I didn't really live up to, I will just focus on it and make sure I do something over the next couple of days that makes me very conscious of that value. If I'm not connecting with people, it'll be more human connection. If I'm not exercising, it'll be exercising. If I'm not learning, I'll try to learn something new. And so for me, it's like I visit it. I'm like, okay, well, what small thing can I do tomorrow? And for me, that's the beauty of my busy busting process, is it's so easy. I mean, anybody can do this. It's not a formal process. It's just, what can you subtract from your life? Indulge in happiness rituals and make sure that you use your values to make your decisions and guide your actions. So simple, but it does lead to a healthier, happier, more productive life. It
Right.
it just works.
Yeah. I want to go back and talk about something that you mentioned earlier, because you brought up multitasking. And I love to call multitasking multi half assing, because you're not doing everything full strength. You're just not. So, how does doing less actually lead to achieving more? And why is it so hard for so many of us to believe that?
I think that, so many of us, we're an overstimulated 24/7 society where we're used to so much going on around us. It takes a minute to slow down and be like, okay, I'm just doing this one activity and I'm going to do it really, really well. It takes a lot of discipline. For most people, they love to multitask and they think they're more productive. But really, if you look at the statistics on multitasking, people that multitask in meetings or people that do multiple activities at once, really sets them up for failure because you're right. They are what did you call it? Multi
Multi
half-assing?
half-assing, yeah.
Multi half-assing. I mean, it's true. Our work is really riddled in mistakes, and we do some really dumb things, and it takes a lot of discipline. People take the easy way out. We love being busy. We love feeling like we're getting a lot of things done, but we're really not doing them well. We're not listening when we're half listening, when we're working on something and we're doing something else. It's not done to our first fullest capacity. And all of the stats and all of the studies show that twofold. So, for somebody like me that is a data geek that lives by data, you look at the data, it's like, why would you set yourself up for failure? It doesn't lead to happiness, health, or productivity. So, you're better off doing one thing at a time and doing it well. You actually will get more done that way.
Yeah. And I can definitely attest to people multitasking in meetings and not getting everything done the way that they should, because I'm one of those people who will be like, I will say your name before I ask a question. I'll be like, John, and then ask my question, because I know that people are checking their email, they're doing a different task, they're doing all of this stuff. And if I don't say your name first, I'm going to have to repeat myself. So I do that for my own sanity, but also like the recognition that that is a norm right now, is for people to be doing multiple things at one time. And I don't think that it's really helpful, because if they weren't listening to hear their name and answer that question, were they listening to the rest of the meeting? I mean, first of all, did it need to be a meeting in the first place? But were they listening to the rest of the meeting, and did they get anything out of it? Was there value in them being there besides answering that one question that they probably could have answered in a text message anyway? So, but yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, it's very
here's a
common.
Here's a stat for you. 83% of working Americans spend 1/3 of their time in meetings, and only 30% of them are productive because we're not present in our meetings. We're doing
Yeah.
other things. And so you think about it, you know, you do the math and you could save 10, 12 hours every week if you just focused and you stopped multitasking. It would actually give you more time to do the things you want to do, and who doesn't want that?
I absolutely believe that a third of the time is spent in meetings, if not more. It's so much.
Yeah,
There's so many meetings right now. It feels like it's reaching critical mass in the business world for
it
sure.
is, but people don't want to let go of them. We're so used
No,
to
no.
meetings, but I think people are wising up. You look at statistics don't lie, and I'm a data geek, and all of the data basically says, we spend too much time in meetings and we don't have enough time to do our work. And you need that quiet time to be productive and to focus and to get your work done.
Yeah, for sure. What words of wisdom do you have for someone who might feel that being busy is necessary for success?
Try the alternative and see how it feels. Eliminate one or two low value activities. Try to, align your values with your decisions and see how that feels. I've never met a person, and I have taught this strategy to thousands of people. I've never met anybody who said life wasn't better when they really focused and eliminated the things that weren't important and they had time to focus on what was important. I've never met a soul who said their life did not improve.
That's impressive. And it's a testament too.
Yeah.
You mentioned self-awareness earlier. What role does self-awareness play in busting that busyness? And are there any practical ways to build self-awareness in our daily lives?
I know for me, I just am so used to catching myself like, what am I doing? I used to get up every morning and the first thing I do would be look at email. And then I got lost in the email rabbit hole, and then it prevented me from eating a healthy breakfast or doing other things. And so, I think a lot of times if we can sit there and just really ask ourselves, like, is what I'm doing of value? Is it really adding value? Does it make sense? Does it need to be done? And if the answer is not really, or no, or I'm just wasting time, I mean, nobody wants to get to their end of their day saying, I wish I had more time for what I really needed to be doing. But when we spend a lot of time wasting it, doing too much social media, multitasking, spending time on low value things, we get to the end of their day saying, oh, shoot, I wish I had time for this very important activity. And so, if you really value what's important, you want to make sure you do that stuff first.
Yeah. Yeah.
You catch yourself and you always ask yourself, is what I'm doing, am I adding value? Am I giving value? What's the value in what's going on? And if there's no value and we're just doing it to do it, or it's a low value task, consider eliminating it.
Yeah. I also like the idea you mentioned earlier, kind of the scorecard or report card at the end of the day in those four areas. And it's like that, I think doing that on a regular basis or something like journaling or anything like that could help you raise that self-awareness a little bit and say, okay, instead of getting onto yourself for, well, I wasn't thinking about it in the moment, just do a reflection on your day and see what you can improve the next day. Like that amount of self-awareness is something that many of us, myself included, sometimes lack.
Yeah, I think so much of what we do in life is habitual. I do this
Absolutely.
exercise when I speak in groups, and I ask people to put both feet down on the floor and cross a leg. And then I'll ask them to uncross it, and then I'll tell them to cross the leg again. And usually they cross the exact same leg. And then I ask them, okay, now try crossing the other leg. And they'll be like, this feels awkward. I'm like, do it a couple of times. And then they'll realize, well, it's not so awkward once I practice it a little bit. And that's how it gets with the self-awareness thing. Like if you're constantly aware, like I love to look at my day before I even start it and say, and really plan out, what are my priorities? And I want to time
Hmm.
block my day based on my priorities. And there usually isn't time for low value activities. You just focus on what's important to you, and then you end up getting done what was most important to you, and you have that leftover time for relationships and fun and exercise and the other things, instead of saying I spent all day doom scrolling or checking email or multitasking, things that really don't make us happy or healthy or productive.
Yeah. Now you've worked with a range of clients. You're in your bio, you mentioned the Fortune 500 companies, the smaller teams. Is there a difference in the challenges with busyness among different groups or maybe different industries or sizes of companies?
I invented the busy barometer so I would really understand what low value activities happen within an organization, because cultures are different and different cultures value different things. So that's why sometimes it's really important to understand what's going on inside a company and what's going on with
Hmm.
those cultures. So yes, we all succumb to different busy traps, and so eliminating. I mean, you can't ask people to focus on what's important if they don't have time. So that's why that step one is subtraction. It's about eliminating the stress and giving people the time to do things well and to do things that they love. But that differs from culture to culture, organization to organization, young to old. I mean, you look at our children today, and they're also, adept at anything that is electronic, right? And they're just so unaccustomed to being without their electronics. And it's, really interesting and so, asking somebody young to go without their electronics for a little period of time and maybe focus on what they're working on. It's like painful, but then all of a sudden they realize this other part of life. Like, I don't need to sit in my bedroom and, play computer games or do whatever I can go outside in the sunshine and I can have fun with my next door neighbor, or I can do something, really, really enjoyable or something more productive.
Yeah. Yeah, just trying to see
Yeah, trying to
among the
see.
different like mindsets of if you're used to doing
Yep.
it this way, try it another way and that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's very generational, it's very cultural.
Mm.
And then it's also, I mean, you look at, Asian culture versus European versus Italian, so many different cultures, different things are accepted. In Europe, people take a lot of breaks. They take siestas. They're calmer, why is that? It's just because of the way they're raised.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish that kind of culture would come to America. Oh, I would
Yeah,
welcome more
I,
breaks, more time
I do
off.
too. Yep, yep, I do too, but it's got to be a gift we give ourselves, and it's
Yeah.
got to be a gift that we realize it's more that type of lifestyle is better. It's more productive. It leads to, I mean, I get back to the data. The stats on busyness are really detrimental when it comes to our health, our happiness, our productivity, and stats don't lie. Data doesn't lie. And so, you look at the stats, there's ample reason for us to start leading a simpler life.
Mhm. Yep. I know that there's been a fairly recent study on like a 4-day work week and how much more effective, efficient people would be if they had a 4-day work week. But boy, the resistance to that is strong.
Yeah, or the other way around. For me, instead of a 4-day work week, I'd like to work 5 hours, 6 days a week. I mean, or 6 hours. I'd rather work less but work more frequently. I mean, everybody has different rhythms that work for them.
Hmm.
And I know for me, I love the challenge of sitting down to work every day, but I love having my playtime too. And so
Yeah.
I don't like just having my playtime on the weekend. So I think we can get accustomed to different ways of slicing and dicing our time.
Yeah. Yeah. And seeing
Yeah.
what different
Yeah.
people's,
Seeing what
if we could
different
work
people.
around, people's personal preferences and say, like, all right, this is what works for me really well. This is what works for you really well. That kind of thing, I think would be uh, a lot more effective for sure. You mentioned the scorecard earlier. Do you have any other favorite practices or routines that help you stay aligned with what really matters in your life?
Um, I think I'm really big on connection. And I always try to not make anything I do transactional, but really connect with the person. And connecting to me is about listening a lot and really understanding what's important and giving somebody the respect to listen and really hear what they have to say. So connection is really important to me, and I think if we listened a little closer to everything around us, we'd all get along a little better. We'd be happier, we'd be healthier, and it would just be, a society that gets along and is more tolerant of each other. But we don't listen, and so we don't understand, and we don't connect with people, and so it's easy to kind of, go off on our own and do things on our own. So I'd say for me, I think connection is just, they say there's a loneliness epidemic according to the American Psychiatric Association. 1 in every 3 people feels lonely on a weekly basis, and 1 in every 10 feels lonely on a daily basis. So, we're losing our ability to connect, and that's sad.
Hmm.
It just really is.
Yeah. Yeah. This comment in chat is great. What works well for me is not getting up so dang early. Why did we as a society decide that early people should be able to make the universal schedule? Yeah, I mean, and this goes back to the previous conversation topic, but yeah, it's very much like some people are not great in the morning. My whole team knows I'm not great in the morning, and that my afternoon stride is where I really hit it hard for the day. I get I get a lot more done in the afternoon than anyone does in the morning. But some people are truly morning people, and more power to them. But why did we make everything so early all the time? Because it doesn't work for everyone. And one way of working I don't think will work for everyone. But yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's why authenticity is such an important value because when you recognize your rhythm and what works for you, it's always so important to stand up and say, I understand that you want to start this meeting at, 7 a.m., but here's the reality, and can we try it this way because that doesn't work for me? And
Hmm.
and having the courage to stand up and say what doesn't work for you so people will consider a different alternative is so important.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, we're coming up on the last couple of questions. So if anyone here live has anything that we want to make sure to get asked, feel free to pop it into the chat and I'll make sure to ask it. But moving on to the next one, what is your favorite life hack?
I probably would have to say when things don't make sense, I go out for a long walking. To me, everything in the world makes sense when I get out there and I get the fresh air on me and I just sort of escape and just enjoy nature and go for a walk and just try to clear out my mind. So walking to me is one of my favorite life hacks. When things don't make sense, I'll just walk out and go for a walk.
It's very good to be able to do that and to just say,
Yeah.
I'm going to think about this while I go on a walk. You can put a podcast in if you want, or just walk and be out there in nature or in all the cars and things like that as well, depending on where you live. But yeah, going for a walk can really help you clear your head for sure.
Mhm.
And when I get overwhelmed, I step outside. I don't always go for like a long walk, but I definitely step outside and do a little bit of like, I'm gonna go up the street and I'll come back down. And by the time I get back, I am always much more level. Because
Mhm.
it just helps. It's like, okay, get that out and I'll be right back. By Mark says, I was told there would be info about a book. Is there an option for pre-order or order? I already know someone that needs a copy. And I know that it's on your website, but you said it's available on Amazon as well, right?
If you go to Amazon, my book is called Beyond Busyness. And I chose not to release my book during election time because I was a little concerned there'd be a lot of noise going on. So my book is actually going to be released, but you can pre-order it now at a discounted rate on Amazon. And I would love to have you. And if anybody wants an electronic copy, just reach out to me and I'd be happy to send that as well too.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I've got that Amazon link right there. So feel free to click through and pre-order it on Amazon. And I'll post your website and Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, all those things so that if folks want to connect with you, they can do so there as well and reach out.
Feel free. I love meeting new people and I love helping people escape the busy hamster wheel because let me tell you, life is so much better when you do. It
Yeah.
truly is.
Okay, well, it is time for the magic moment. Oh no. All right, hold on. This might. Oh, nope, there it goes. Okay, I have to squeeze it to get it to work. So I'm going to squeeze this magic wand. If you could wave a magic wand and eliminate one common opinion or misconception or theory about mental health, what would it be?
We think we're alone. We think we're the only person going through something, and chances are somebody else has gone through it before. it's so important not to go it alone, but to talk about your challenges and especially to talk with other people because you'll find you'll learn how to get through it. You'll learn hacks on how to get through it. It just we're not alone. And when we share what's going on, the good, the hard, the ugly, the difficult, we can find solutions much easier. So I'd say that would be it.
I
You are not alone.
Yeah. I absolutely agree with that because that's one of the things when I was going through postpartum depression, I really thought that I was alone. And as soon as I started sharing and talking about what I was going through, there were so many people who were like, "Oh, that happened to me also." And I never would have known, and they were able to share some things with me that helped them through it. And it's just a beautiful like give and take. And now I'm really open about sharing everything. So, you can go into the Discord community and somebody will post and say like, what happens if or what was the one today? Someone said, how do I know when I get to a place where I'm being argumentative instead of having a constructive discussion? And it's like so many people can weigh in on that and say, well, here's what I do and here's what I do. And it's really nice to have some folks who can be a sounding board for you. And yeah, you're not alone. Most definitely. And if you open up about what you're going through, you'd be surprised how many people are able to step in and help and be that light when you need it. Well, Peggy, I'm going to open it up to you. If there's anything we haven't covered or anything that you want to talk about, feel free to just share with our community here.
No, it's a pleasure being here. And I just have to say that, when we get intentional with how we spend our time, life just becomes so much more meaningful, more richer. We enjoy our relationships. We're happier, we're healthier. So get off that hamster wheel. It's not doing you any good.
Yeah. Yep. Well, Peggy, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day today. I know it's pretty late for you, so appreciate you sticking in there with us. And yeah, I just appreciate you coming on here and sharing with us a little bit. And I look forward to your book coming out.
Sounds great. And thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right, folks, give me just a minute to disconnect with Peggy offline, and I will be right back. Stick around. Okay, I really have to burp, but it's not happening. So that might happen later. We'll see. I've been having to mess with my audio more and more. It's driving me fucking crazy. But I think it was okay there. The podcast episode that's coming out tomorrow, the audio was bad. Like legitimately bad. So there's that. But I'm gonna post it anyway. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, I think my audio tonight was okay. I was testing it ahead of time, and I think I got everything narrowed down. But the audio for tomorrow's thing is really, really bad. I don't know if you remember the episode with Wayne Brown, where I had just gotten back from vacation, and my 17-year-old had installed something on my computer for school, and it had taken over the audio, and I didn't know it. It's that one. It's awful. I had to do so much editing that it's not even like processed yet. I have it. It was processing that whole time, and it's still not done. Like that's how much editing I had to do on it. It was crazy. Because whenever you edit, it has to process each segment at a time. So like it'll process whatever you edited from and to, and then it'll process whatever you edited from and to, and then from and to, and then from and to. And it's like so many edits, and it still sounds terrible. But it was such a good conversation, and his audio sounds fine. So, and also he was having some major like connection issues, so his video kept freezing where mine would continue and everything. So I had to cut all those parts out too. Anyway, I think that it's okay. I think my audio is okay now. But I'm pretty tired of the audio issues, and I don't remember where I was going with that at all, which is fine. Okay, I already closed the question queue, so we're good there. All right. What do I want to play today? I don't know if I'm feeling 7 Days to Die. Am I feeling 7 Days to Die? Is anyone on right now? Hold on. Let me look. Let me pull up the web map. Oh, someone's online. Who's online? Slay is online! Okay, should we play 7 Days to Die since Slay is on? Maybe that's what we'll play. I can always be convinced, even if I feel like I have no energy, I can always be convinced to play if there are other people on. I do need to stretch, thank you. Oh, man. This was a Monday. This was a Monday. Oh, my shoulder popped. Oh, I wonder if the other one will pop also. Let's see. No, it won't. Oh, treats! He heard me say it. Did you hear me? He's so interested. So many treats. I gotta remember to put this back up so Bo doesn't get it in the middle of the night. Maybe if I just put it, maybe that'll be fine. I really have to burp and it's not happening. Oh, that was such a sad one. I sent you a message, it's not important, but WTF. Orange pie? Are those bananas in an orange? Bananas, apples, and grapes? To make an orange pie? Have a LaCroix, full burpage guaranteed. No oranges. No oranges necessary. You don't need oranges. 3 other fruits. I mean, sometimes in order to make an orange pie, there is a pie that's like, it's called something and there's not that thing in it. That's a legit thing. I mean, it's not legit. It's not a legit. It shouldn't be that way, is what I'm trying to say. Anyway, I hope everyone's Monday has been lovely. And that you're not dealing with weird technical issues like I always am. When life gives you fuck off. When life gives you lemons, knit a scarf. I guess there's not. Tea and Long Island iced tea. There you go. That's a good example. I like Long Island iced tea. It's good. Frost, are you going to play with me? Okay, I'm going to stop on YouTube so that I can restart it. Bye, YouTube. Be right